Hi, and welcome back to Sizzling Hot with Sarah Michelle. My name is Sarah Michelle, and here today we are still out of our element. We're in my game room today. My parents told me that the estimated time to finish the kitchen is January 2022. So right now we're gonna be without a kitchen for some time. I'm kidding. We're gonna be done hopefully by the end of June. They're like putting backsplashes on. My mom can't make up her mind on the rocks. Women. But here today, I actually decided to make this show very special because we are actually entering a holiday weekend. And so I am so grateful that Abel and Gabriel were able to join me again. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here again. So really excited.
I'm excited to have y'all. So we all work full-time jobs. Today is Thursday, May 27th, and I told them, guys, like, I'm not cooking anything special. Like, this is not the week for me to cook something. So I had my mom make my dish for today. Do you guys want to share first, or do you guys want me to go first?
We could share. We're ashamed to say it. That's why we're struggling here. No, we decided to procure our quesadillas today, but no, we got it from a wonderful restaurant we both love. It's called Jose Tejas, which they do like
Bro, you got it wrong, man. It's not Jose Tejas. It's Taqueria.
You're right.
It's Taqueria. Taqueria is actually a great franchise here in New Jersey. They specialize in Tex-Mex, street food basically. So if you're ever in Jersey, if you're ever in the tri-state area, come and check them out.
Okay, I live in Texas, so we have the best tacos. I don't know, like,
I'm sure you do.
I don't know what else
Yeah,
to tell
it
you
doesn't
guys.
compare.
We have the best. I actually talked to my mom, and my mom, because she loves me, she actually made my quesadilla. So this is my quesadilla. It doesn't have
Wow.
any fixings on it because I can't be eating sour cream. I can't be eating crazy stuff. I have a wedding to go to this weekend, and we gotta behave. So, guys, this is just a different kind of show this week.
It's all good.
What?
It's all good. We'll eat all the unhealthy stuff for you.
Yeah, you guys show out for everybody else. I'm gonna be over here with my chicken and spinach quesadilla. That's not even Tex-Mex. Maybe for the next show, I'll fry some chicken or something just to balance everything out.
All right.
Okay, guys. So let's see it.
There are our quesadillas.
These things are fast.
That
So
looks like a
inside-
chimichanga.
This is pollo tinga with guacamole inside. Yeah, so it's pretty solid.
That looks good. It looks like the chimichanga I made on my first episode.
It's not fried, and yeah, it almost looks like a burrito, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Excited.
Let's just begin. Let's begin.
By the way, shout out to Jose Tejas. I just threw that. That came out of nowhere. Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. By the way, we're not sponsored by anybody, so if you're listening to this, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. I am currently also on a podcasting platform, only one. I'm on Spotify. I'm trying to get on Apple, but they're very specific about their content, and I'm trying to do other things. And again, I have a million things. This is a two-person team. It's me and my producer, and my producer was out the last time around, so it's been just me. So make sure to support the channel, comment, share, like, subscribe, follow these guys on their social media, follow me on social media, have fun with me, send me memes, watch me complain about people in the industry, and just have fun. So with that being said, let's begin, guys. Okay, so today we are actually airing almost an entire week from, knowing who's actually going to make it to the second round of the NBA playoffs. So let's just take a step back before we start eating and start talking. We actually had the play-in format again this year, just like we did last year, which I personally really like. I think it makes it more interesting, especially for teams that are just on the cusp of making it into the playoffs. It gives people a chance. Like this year, we saw how Golden State got knocked out. Just at the last second. It was just like they didn't make it because they lost to Memphis. And I think it's fun and exciting. It makes basketball more fun. But it has also received a lot of scrutiny. A lot of players and coaches just don't like it. So I just want you guys to share your thoughts on that if you can.
Sure.
Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah. The Spider-Man meme.
Go ahead, man.
I definitely. I mean, I understandably so. I think to really understand the playing tournament, kind of, you got to add the context. You know, there's no secret the NBA ratings. There's been a lot of articles about NBA ratings not being as good this season, and even some of them last season, due to other things that are happening around our surroundings, right? And you know, this is something they did. It seems to kind of improve interest in the sport, and it definitely does. It's intriguing, right? Watching teams like LA and Golden State, and then that matchup between Golden State and Memphis, definitely very intriguing basketball, very interesting. But when you look at, and this is probably why the criticism comes, when you look at the journey of a season, right? Teams have trends, especially in basketball, where you have 82 games. There's stretches where they're really high, stretches where they're low. It can be back and forth. Teams that start really good and then go downhill, or teams that start really bad and make that climb, right? When you do a play-in tournament, then it impacts how you know, how the teams that were you know, struggling to get in, say like the Lakers, who they knew they had secured a playoff spot, right? A team like the Lakers, if we're thinking this solely on the financial benefits that the NBA reaps for interest and people getting engaged, you kind of run the risk, right, of gambling. If a team like the Lakers falls into the play-in, which happened because of a low in their season and the injuries that they face, what if the Lakers lose that game and they fall out of the playoff picture? Would that not be a bigger loss in the long run? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Things like that, right? That's kind of how I'm seeing it, because it came off as a more business-minded thought process rather than a, you know, I don't know. That's how I view it.
That's what it seems like, you know, the NBA executives are thinking of, how to make the sport more fun, palatable for the audience. Of course, this season was just spectacular with the play-in tournament, having LeBron versus Steph Curry in the first round of the play-in on the West Coast. So that alone, that garnered so much attention. You know, it was just the number one game that night. It was like watching a finals game, right? Really, everyone wanted to watch Steph and LeBron,
and it's one game. Anything can happen.
Exactly. But the gamble is, how do you know every season it's going to be that attractive?
Yeah.
You know, you might not get Steph and LeBron every season because historically, in the past couple of years,
they've always made it.
Teams that are high up in the bracket, you know, they're low at the standings because of injuries that plagued them throughout the season. So I'm not sure how it is. If it's too early to tell, I think it is. And I think perhaps there might be some challenges to face with making the play-in tournament something that's permanent in the NBA. It was an idea that came out of the pandemic because they were trying to be creative with making sure that it was fair.
Yeah.
You know, that the playoffs were going to be something that was, I guess, equal to the rest of the league. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do next season.
I propose to the NBA, if they're watching right now.
I wish the NBA was watching.
That the play-in tournament was only actionable if teams that were seeded between seeds 7, 8, 9, and 10 were like 2 games apart only. Kind of like how it was brought up last season because of the short season, and you know how there's a lot of teams that were kind of fighting for those last spots. If teams end the season in a close, I guess in a close record as such, then a play-in tournament is exciting. It makes sense. There's teams fighting or battling. Really, no one has really officially earned their spot because of the highs and the lows. You can make an argument for that. But a team that has secured an 8 seed with like over 3 or 4 or 5 games, why should they have to fall into the play-in? That's always been my argument. So long term, I guess we'll see what the NBA
So you're
decides.
saying that like based on like how teams end up like right before the playoffs, then they decide, okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I know Luka Doncic, he is like fervently opposed to the play-in. He says that you play all season to secure your spot in the playoffs. So why do you have to like fight for it once again if you're that low? But I definitely see both sides of the argument. I definitely enjoy the play-in. I think it makes it more fun because it's like, okay, like we have one last chance to like knock out this team. It's like a wild card game. I know the Giants have made it to the Super Bowl from winning wild card games, and like that's huge. So I think it just makes it more interesting and definitely more fun to watch. As a fan, I definitely enjoy more games. I love more games, and yeah, fight for the death. Not like that though. This is a positive show. Okay, so let's transition. Are you guys surprised of any teams that did make it into the playoffs and any teams that didn't make it into the playoffs?
Am I surprised of any team that made it to the playoffs and any team that didn't make it to the playoffs? Well, I'm surprised the Golden State Warriors didn't officially make it into the playoffs. After the way that they were playing to end the season, and after that game against the Lakers, which was really a great game, great basketball game to watch. I mean, I thought
it was won by 3 points.
I mean, I thought for sure they would beat Memphis, and I think we were all surprised that they're not in the 8th seed spot. Nevertheless, I think one team that has surprised me the most this season to be in the playoffs and as seeded as they are is the New York Knicks. I mean, it's no question. What they've done is incredible. And, for us in the tri-state area, this is huge. This is a big deal around our community.
For me, I think the team that I'm surprised is in the playoffs, it would have to be the New York Knicks. I mean, you can't write a better story than the New York Knicks. Everyone, literally every expert, every NBA analyst counted them out, said that they were going to be, finishing in the 9th, 10th, 11th seed in the Eastern standings. But they finished the season in the 4th seed in the East, number 4.
That's a comfortable spot. They didn't have to do play-ins.
Super comfortable spot. They didn't have to have the anxiety of, oh man, we can lose this opportunity in the play-in tournament. No, they were excellent throughout the entire season. And we're going to talk more about the Knicks later. But the team that I am surprised that's not in the playoffs is the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, what a disaster of a season with so many young stars, so much potential and so much talent. They started off the season pretty well. Zion was playing, he was balling, but they cannot sustain that momentum throughout the entirety of the season. The West, of course, is a super difficult conference to get in. You have teams competing, and they're pretty, neck and neck throughout the entire season. But I really thought that they'd get in. They'd sneak in maybe as an 8th or a 7th seed, but they didn't. I don't even think they finished anywhere close.
Do you think it was a coaching issue, or?
I'm not sure.
And Lonzo had a good season. I thought Lonzo played one of his better seasons. I mean, they got Brandon Ingram. They have a squad.
They have a squad. Lonzo has been, talked about for an option for the New York Knicks, as an option to bring him in the offseason as point guard. So he's been balling out. Ingram, as you mentioned, as well as Zion. It's a young team. They have a lot of talent. I'm not sure if it's a coaching thing or, the guys just
don't fit. I don't know.
Don't fit together. Maybe it was injuries. Not sure. But I was surprised to not see them in the playoffs this year.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, now we're going to actually talk about the playoffs and, what's actually happening right now. And I'm going to let you guys eat a little bit. I've already been stuffing my face. I came home hungry today. So these are takes that viewers sent to me, and if you are a regular viewer of Sizzling Hot with Sarah Michelle, I encourage you to DM me, tweet me, like just send me anything, because these are things that like I will bring up to my guests. I definitely tailor my shows around what's actually popping right now. I sound like I'm 42. I hate that I used that word, but there we go.
Very hip.
So like I definitely tailor my shows based on like what's going on right now, like what's hot in sports, because this is a sizzling hot show and I am SM. So these are some views that I got this past week, and I want to bring them up to Gabriel and to Abel so that we can see what their takes are. So I'm going to start with my favorite one, because this is something that I have belabored the entire season. So here we go. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul are capable of defeating the Lakers.
Absolutely not. No way.
Okay.
Really?
No way. Yeah.
Bro. All right. Go ahead. Explain.
Go ahead.
Are they capable? Yes. They are capable. They have the talent, the team. Monty Williams, what a great coach. The moment of truth, they could, I don't think that they could do this over a 7-game series. I think they know that they were underdogs coming into the series, even as a 2 seed, because everyone expects the Lakers to win, etc. But I like where Phoenix is at. I just don't think they are going to win, especially now with the Chris Paul injury. I thought the key component to that team being as successful as they were was Chris Paul.
I can agree with that element there. I think that certainly changes the dynamic. His health, of course, Chris Paul is a phenomenal point guard. He is the commander-in-chief on that team. He runs the plays. He's calling out guys where to move.
He's the leader of that team.
He's the leader. He is a veteran presence that they needed.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely elevated the game. If he's healthy, if he comes back 100% in this series, I think it'll go to Game 7, and I will give the edge to Phoenix just because LeBron isn't at 100%.
No,
LeBron is cruising.
LeBron is not at 100%. And
he's not.
My second point is I'm not sure if Anthony Davis is going to be able to step up every night to offset LeBron's absence from the statistics.
Yeah.
And number 3, my thing is Devin Booker. When that kid gets going, there is no answer on the Lakers to him. None whatsoever. He is an absolute machine scoring the ball. I think if he gets on fire, that's it.
So let's talk this, right? Let's talk just X's and O's pretty basically, right? Lakers are the number 1 defense in the NBA. Number 1.
No, that's the Knicks. That's been the Knicks this entire season.
The number 1 defensive efficiency rating in the NBA, I believe, is the LA Lakers, if I'm not mistaken. Even after the injuries, if we can we can go back and look at it, but it doesn't matter. They're one of the top 3 best defensive teams in the league, right? Phoenix is good. Their defensive rating is like they're one of the top teams with like top 10 defensive rating and offensive rating. Biggest play that they have, or the play that they really use to hurt other teams, is the pick and roll, right? Lakers continue, and I don't know why, right? I'm a huge Lakers fan, as you can say. I could get passionate about this. Lakers continue to play 2 bigs. That's the way that they run their offense, right? Anthony Davis at the 4 and Marc Gasol or Andre Drummond at the 5. That is unsustainable against the pick and roll, because that forces 2 guys that can't keep up with these guards. That's why Cameron Payne had the game that he had. That's why Chris Paul was cutting the way he was, and they were scoring at will. When you open the floor by driving to the lane in that way and having a center already be behind you, one of these guards,
right,
that opens the shooters, right? That it opens the entire game. The moment that they put Anthony Davis at the 5 in the 4th quarter, what happened? It was complete shutdown of that offense. And it happened in the last 5 minutes. When Anthony Davis plays at the 5, he can keep up on that pick and roll action because he's an elite defender. that changes the whole spectrum of the game. I also want to touch on your point on LeBron James. I don't think LeBron James is fully healthy yet, but LeBron James is not also going 100% because of that. I think he's just cruising because he's making the right shots, he's making the right reads. He looks like a game man. The guy's like, I've never seen LeBron James as composed. That's a lie. I've never seen him as efficient and as calm, I guess, as he looks right now in this playoff series so far, even though the Lakers haven't really played that good, right? The shooting has been awful. The offense hasn't been that good. Anthony Davis has had a first bad game. But I mean, listen, I think they don't stand a chance because Lakers aren't even playing at their best and they won game 2.
I'm sorry, I triggered him. Apologies. He's a Laker fan and he's talking like a Laker fan. I think this series goes to game 7. If Chris Paul is healthy, I do think that Phoenix has the edge. But we'll find out.
I guess we'll find out.
One of the takes that I got was Trae Young is on fire and will be the reason the Knicks lose.
Yeah, that's the take that you got.
That's the take I got.
Okay.
It's not mine.
I'm a Knick fan, but I am going to take off my Knick, glasses and just going to set them aside for a second. Atlanta's offense is based completely on Trae Young. He's their number one guy. That is the offensive force. The guy drives to the basket. If he can't get the shot, he's going to kick it out to somebody with a pass and look for an open shooter. All right, so what happened in this last game, game 2? We'll talk about game 1 first. Game 1, he's put up, incredible numbers against the number 1 defense in the league, the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks also, their best 2 offensive players in Julius Randle and RJ Barrett had horrible shooting nights. Like, they were absolutely terrible the entire game. Julius Randle did not play well. Yet, the game was won by, 2 points? This is the Knick defense. Trae Young had a great game. Don't want to take away anything from him. He played phenomenal, in a place that was bumping and trash-talking him. Game 2, what happens? He scores, 28 points, 30 points. But in the key moments where they needed him to step up, he got locked down. The New York Knicks defense was too much for him. And this is, again, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett didn't have good games in game 2. Julius Randle woke up a little bit in the second half, particularly in the third quarter. But the New York Knicks, the entire team first half, they played poorly shooting. Yet they were able to erase a 15-point deficit in the second half because of their defense and also because of their bench. They have a veteran presence. Derrick Rose stepped up, played a phenomenal game.
Put up a lot of points in his, 39 minutes? Yeah.
Obi Toppin stepped up as well in the first half, and then he came in the second half and gave a spark to the subs that were on the court as D Rose and Julius Randle were on the bench resting. So the Atlanta Hawks are barely scratching their wins against New York Knicks. Like they weren't able to stop the Knicks in game 2. And their best guy had over 30 points in both games. Their problem is that Trae Young is their only offensive weapon. If they don't have these other guys like Bogdanovich, he shot poorly for game 1 and he shot poorly game 2. Clint Capella, same thing. He's more of a defensive presence than an offensive presence.
Yeah.
But still, they don't have the offensive pieces to mount a good series against this defense. Let's just put it that way. If Julius Randle and RJ Barrett get it going in the rest of the series, Trae Young can score 50 points a game. They are not beating the New York Knicks. There is just no way.
That's a really hot take. That's really hot. Okay.
I agree with everything he said. If the Knicks lose, it will be because of Trae Young, because he is the best player on the court on both teams. He is the best player on the court. The Atlanta Hawks cannot match up against the New York Knicks. That is the problem. The Knicks are bigger, they're tougher, they got that New York grit, right? They over a 7-game series, these guys are beating you up, right? And the numbers are going to start going, they're going to get worse. And to the point that you made, they're not playing good basketball, which goes in line with what I said about the Lakers previously as well. They're not playing good basketball. And they were still within 3 points, I believe it was, the three, or just a few points on the first game 1 and game 2 as well. When this team starts turning it up, Julius Randle needs to be better, I think, especially if that's your leader. You need your leader to step up in order for you to take a series. But their defense is what gives them a chance to win any game. And that will continue to be there. If their defense is there, the offense is going to come. They're getting into rhythm. They're going to go into a crazy atmosphere, I think, in Atlanta. But I think the Knicks should win this series. I truly believe that.
Look, they made defensive adjustments in game 2. Trae Young really isn't good going to his left. The Knicks saw that in game 1. And then in game 2, they fixed it and forced him to his left. Really didn't give him the right side easily. Of course, yeah, he still scored a lot of points in the second half when the Knicks mounted the comeback and they started getting ahead by, 7, 10 points. Trae Young came on the court and brought the game back to 2. Not necessarily because he was shooting the ball well, but because he was moving it around and he was getting to the right side. But what happens? D Rose came back in the game. Julius Randle came back in the game, and they shut him down again defensively. So it's going to be very tough. I don't know if Trae Young is the one to bring down the Knicks. It's going to take a lot more than just one guy. And we saw that with Golden State, which, a lot of people obviously emulate. They say that Young emulates Curry's game. Well, look, Curry played phenomenal in these 2 play-in games against the Lakers and Memphis. And so, yet, they're not in the playoffs.
Very good point.
Very good point. Exactly. Okay, boys. All right. Let's go to the last one. I was going to talk about the Nets, but I'm so tired of talking about the Nets. If I have to talk about the Nets one more time, I'm just going to lose my mind. So we're going to actually talk about Kawhi Leonard. And so one of my followers said that Kawhi Leonard will leave the Clippers if they lose this round.
Kawhi Leonard
and then to add on to that, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, on my sports Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, that is the place to follow me at. It's Sizzlin Hot WSM. Somebody said that the Spurs should look at acquiring Kawhi again and bring him back to form the team, like be the team that they were before. So
that's a very interesting take. I mean, that they left some bad water there.
There was some bad blood.
Yeah, that wasn't. But I guess that will Kawhi leave if the Clippers don't go on a championship run? I don't think so. I don't think he leaves because the reasons stated by sources were that he came to that team because it was home, because it was his hometown, and he didn't want to be part of a second or third tier player to a LeBron James and even an Anthony Davis at the time. He wanted to be the guy, and he is the guy. And as the guy, you have to step up. And I think the Clippers organization believes in him. I'm having a hard time seeing him leaving after this season. I don't think it happens right away. Now, signing a long-term contract is a completely different thing. I don't know if that happens either. But again, LA is home. He's won rings. I mean, I think he wants to build there with the Clippers.
Yeah, I don't foresee him leaving. Paul George, on the other hand. Yeah, I don't see him.
P.
Yes, I see Kawhi staying in LA. I don't. He doesn't peg me as the guy that is just gonna, quit.
Right.
He's a guy that wants a challenge. I mean, he wanted a challenge, and that's why he went to Toronto and took them to the finals and won against Golden State. Of course, obviously, Golden State had a bunch of injuries in that postseason. But I think Kawhi is going to stay in LA, try as best as he can. If they don't make a championship run this postseason, try as best as he can to recruit players that are going to come and help and do the job. So I don't agree with that take that he's going to just leave or even go back to San Antonio, because I believe that there were some bridges that were burned during his exit. So I just can't see them coming and reconciling.
Oh man!
And for the record, he's had a great series. So I mean, he's been playing. They cannot. I mean, he's played great.
Listen, if we're gonna be serious and honest, the conversation should not be centering Kawhi, because he's doing everything that he can as team leader. The common denominator for teams that don't do well in the playoffs is Paul George. Like, he is in my opinion, the guy that it just seems like doesn't click in the playoffs, and
it happened last year.
Maybe that's something to to consider going forward. Is this guy going to be a key player in this team?
Well, I'll say this in his defense, right? That has been the historical trend. I mean, he's played great too. I mean, he hasn't had really that bad of a game the first two games. He scored over 30 points last on the game 2, right? So I mean, he's playing good. But what about everybody else, right? Are we building the right way? Are we, it takes more to a team than just superstars. You need to have the right pieces, the right guys with the right mindset that fit and know their roles, and everybody's willing to sacrifice in order to go on the championship run. How does that?
You need those guys to play consistent basketball. That's the problem with Paul George. We haven't seen him do that. Hey, look, maybe they advance this round, and Paul George all of a sudden becomes that superstar that we saw him in Indianapolis. He becomes that guy that is just going to step up to the challenge, to the moment. He's going to be the guy that takes down LeBron, as he tried when he was in Indiana. But
let's hope he doesn't do that. But yeah,
I mean, eventually, it might come to it. And that'll have to happen for him to solidify himself as a leader and as a guy that is going to win basketball games for the LA Clippers.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So we're going to take a little break. I'm going to let you guys eat for a second, and we will be right back. Okay, guys. So we're back now. How was you guys' quesadilla?
It's pretty good.
It was bomb. Mine was bomb, too. I have to thank my mom later, give her a big hug for doing this for me, because she saved my life. Okay, so we are midway through the first half of the season in Major League Baseball. You guys both came on my show and make very audacious claims. So were any of you guys' predictions correct?
Yes, actually. Sorry, bro. Yes. So I predicted, if you want to check, you can run and look at the tapes. But I predicted that one of the teams that was going to come out ahead and, stay ahead for a while was the Boston Red Sox. And, if you look at the American League East, which for me, in my opinion, it is right now the most competitive division in all of baseball. There's no other division that is going to be as competitive. That might be a dangerous thing, because these guys are going to be beating each other up throughout the regular season.
Yeah.
But Boston has surprised so many people. I think they're excellent. The other team, of course, that I mentioned was the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox have, been playing really well. They have an absolutely great pitching staff. Their pitching is phenomenal. And the Houston Astros, they are up there. So
yeah,
I did mention all three of those teams in the past episode. And
yes, everyone, please go watch it. Go watch the other episode where he was at, so you guys can be right. I haven't checked anything. I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
It's okay. I think the only team that has surprised me the most has been the San Francisco Giants. Who would have thought that there would be a third team contending for the National League West?
Yeah.
Especially the Giants, who historical rivalry with the Dodgers. So I definitely was wrong about the Giants. Didn't think they'd be anywhere in
No
the
one saw them
conversation.
coming. Yeah.
Yet they're here. They're sitting atop pretty on the National League West Division.
While the Padres and the Dodgers are killing themselves. Yeah. You way to steal my talking points. I was actually going to bring up the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox, I think most of their team, most of their position players have on base plus slugging over like 600, which is that's pretty awesome. That's a really great metric to measure like performance. I think the like maybe 2 position players and then like the pitchers have on base percentages plus slugging under 300. Like, and like you're a pitcher, you don't have to get on base. So to me, I think I didn't expect to see the Red Sox coming, but I definitely think it's the Alex Cora effect. And I think this makes me really sad to say, but they are very, 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 they're a very potential threat to the Yankees. Not only are the Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays, but I think the Boston Red Sox are really going to give us a run for our money if we don't shape up. So the Bronx, get it together, guys.
I disagree. I think Boston will continue having a pretty good season, but down the road, it's going to come to pitching, and Boston.
A lot of their pitchers are out right now.
Yeah. Right now, the 2 teams in the American League East that do have enough power in their rotation and in their bullpen are the New York Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. So those are going to be, for me, the 2 teams that are going to really come, head-to-head in the American League East. I'm not sure it's going to be Boston. It's a good story for, baseball.
A comeback story, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Luis Severino is poised to come back, hopefully in the next 2 months. So I think that will definitely amp up the Yankees pitching rotation, like our starting lineup. But I'm gonna let Abel. I'm gonna let Abel speak more on my boys. Go ahead, Abel.
So I predicted that the Yankees pitching rotation will finally be a championship level or quality rotation this season with the addition of Kluber and Taillon. Even though Taillon hasn't had the season that I think we expected him to have.
Yeah.
He's been somewhat inconsistent. But we know that, again, it's a long season. There's stretches where pitchers are going to be at their best, stretches where they might be up and out. But I think when you account for the fact that, we're having a guy that's playing at the Cy Young level in Garrett Cole. You have Domingo Germán, who came back and has been better than expected. Then you add a guy like Kluber, who's playing phenomenal, pitched a no-hitter the other day. I mean, this guy just got hurt, sadly, knock on wood, right? But he should be back in I think it's supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks. I think about a month and a half he'll be out. But we know he's still got the stuff, right? The stuff that we want to see. And you have your starters go on a 5-game streak where they didn't allow runs. I mean, that tells you the type of quality that you have in the pitching rotation. That's something I predicted that I thought the Yankees would improve on this season. I'm very excited to see they're better than I expected them to be.
Here's my I guess my anxiety with the Yankees pitching rotation is the injuries. And that's something that's going to come down and possibly haunt them.
Not just the pitching. I think the Yankees' history with the injuries.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's all New York baseball teams because the Mets are just plagued with injuries as well. They should just fire all the athletic trainers for both teams and, just be done with it. But I think with the Yankees specifically, if I'm correct, Sevy is coming back from Tommy John surgery.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tommy John surgery, although it is a pretty normal procedure now with pitchers, it is a super difficult surgery to come back from. And my fear is that he's not going to be in the same form as everyone is expecting him to be. Yes, good pitcher, really solid stuff. But is he going to be the same old Severino as he was before?
I hope
Zach Wheeler, who's currently obviously pitching for Philadelphia, he had Tommy John surgery early on in his career with the Mets. And it took him maybe 3 to 4 seasons later to be back in the same form as he was before. So, yeah, Sevy, the sound of him coming back, it gives most Yankee fans a lot of, I guess,
Happiness.
hope and contentment because here come the reinforcements. But in reality, is he going to be the same Sevy as before?
Yeah.
Tommy John surgery is such a shot in the dark surgery. Noah Syndergaard,
Right.
Tommy John surgery just this week. Yesterday or 2 days ago, in a rehab game, his comeback is sidelined 6 to 8 weeks just because he was, experiencing elbow soreness. So we'll see.
I mean, look, reservations exist. I won't, but I still feel really good about what the Yankees have in terms of numbers and guys. I mean, Jordan Montgomery, I think he's been up and down. He's had really good outings where, just last week he struck out 11 batters, and then he's had outings where he struggled. I think the Yankees, come playoff time, will have 3 key guys for sure, I think, based on what we've seen so far. And then, if there are no other injuries, right, then you have a guy like Sevy who's been in these moments, who've had the experience, and hopefully he is back to at least, a decent portion of what we know he can be. And you got other guys there as well that can give you quality innings in games where you're going to need him, right?
Yeah.
We know that there's the pitchers don't go more than 4 or 5 innings in the playoff game. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, especially in that division. One other thing that I did predict as well was the San Diego Padres being as dominant as they have been so far, and the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres having the battle that they're having. I mean, I think it's been phenomenal. Tatis, shout out, that guy is
Macorizano. Fernando Tatis Jr., if you would like to come on the show, I would love to have you. I am from the same city that you're from. I just thought I would put that out there. My family probably knows your family, and my mom probably saw you growing up. So just letting you know.
You guys are probably related.
Yeah,
I would not doubt it. San Pedro de Macorís, we export all the best shortstops in the league. So, I mean, Tatis Jr., hey, if you want to come on the show, they would love to have you on the show. I would also love to have you, but just let me know. Just thought I would put that in there.
Listen, Fernando, if you're listening, do it.
Do it. Hablar en español.
We'll show you how to cook some good food too.
Yeah, haremos mangú con queso frito y salami.
Los tres golpes.
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Okay, let's talk about pitching really quick. Because I think this is an explosive year for pitchers. I want to just point out, I feel like it's getting harder and harder for hitters to hit these pitches. Just recently, this is the season of the no-hitter. We've had 5 no-hitters so far. That's an insane.
7, right?
7 if you count Bumgarner's
to the eighth inning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's still a lot. That's still a lot to have. I think we've gone through droughts before where we've had no hitters at all. So first I want to touch on what do we have to consider as these pitchers are getting harder and harder to hit, and how do you think hitters can improve and match up to these pitchers at this point in their careers?
So that's a good question and a hard question to answer. I mean, it's hard to really define what is happening in baseball other than it's the way the game has evolved over time. And I think part of it is excellent pitching and guys coming off a shorter season with good rhythm and good, perfection to their craft and their competitive nature. And then, a change in the way that we've traditionally, played the game from a batting perspective. I think when you look at teams like the Yankees, right, which is a good example when we look at analytics and how their batting has changed substantially over the last few years, there's been a bigger focus, even if there's an increase in strikeouts, in their swing to kind of be more hit or miss to home runs, right? There's less of an approach to kind of make contact, move batters, and you won't see a Yankees player doing a bunt. it's very rare that you'll see a Yankees player doing a bunt. It's been a lot of like
big swings or
strikeouts.
nothing. Yeah.
Right. It's go big or go home, because analytics paint or tell you that you have actually a larger probability of, scoring runs and to, et cetera. And we can get into the business side of how baseball loves home runs and et cetera. But the question is, have pitchers now adjusted to this kind of batting? And, is this now starting to show the transition that was made by these batters and how they're struggling to really be a patient batter and find the right pitches and be a contact hitter in order to get swings even when you're not able to hit the ball out of the park. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, but it's definitely starting to show trends that have changed in baseball, and it's really putting them on the spotlight with what we're seeing in the pitching performances over the past few weeks for sure.
Yeah. So I agree that pitching has evolved. It's gotten a lot of pitchers are bringing in more heat.
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago, it was, very rare for a pitcher to hit 100 mile per hour, fastball. Like that was almost unheard of. And if you were pitching 100 miles per hour, you were definitely a closer. Likely. That's who you were. And if you were also hitting that fast, like that mark, you didn't have control. You weren't able to place the ball wherever you want. Now you have, at least 6 or 7 guys who are just amazing at picking their spots and putting it, 100, 101. Jacob deGrom, Garrett Cole, Scherzer. You
Tyler
have
Glass now.
Glasnow, Bieber, like all these pitchers who are elite, amazing at their craft, and it's fooling batters. So number one, I think batters have to make the adjustment as pitchers have evolved. Number two, although pitching has been dominating, the league for the past couple of seasons, I'd say that we've also seen an increase, and it's funny how this is almost not talked about. We've seen an increase in home runs.
Yeah.
Like we just had a couple seasons ago, 2018, back-to-back seasons where 2 guys who are rookies come in and break the rookie record for home runs in a season. Aaron Judge and Pete Alonso. So although there's a lot of strikeouts and a lot of, no hitters, there's also a lot of home runs. And part of it is that the mechanics in batting has changed. Most guys now are being taught to do an uppercut swing because the home run ball is what brings and keeps fans in the stadium. So definitely agree with the analytics perspective. It's kind of, limiting the game in a sense because they're putting so much focus on trying to get home runs that it is essentially killing all the other aspects of, the game. You had Buck Showalter just a day or two after Kluber threw his no-hitter basically come out and say this is ruining baseball. And it's not necessarily because of the pitchers. It's more so because of the batters. Yeah. They're trying to hit home runs. So they're being told that as well. These guys, they can hit. They can hit the fastball. Look,
these are the best hitters that MLB has ever had.
They can hit 100, 101 mile per hour fastball. They can absolutely do it. Their problem is that they're trying to hit it out. They're not just trying to get contact. One of the teams that doesn't have the same amount of home runs, like this ridiculous amount of home runs this season, the Boston Red Sox.
Exactly.
Yet they are the number 1 team in hitting the fastball in all of the league.
Exactly.
And they're in first place. So the team with the most home runs this season, the Atlanta Braves. And they're currently in what? Third place
Last
in
time
the National League East. So it's not necessarily the pitchers who are at fault here. It's hitters have to change their approach. They just have to.
Okay, so you actually touched on. Were you going to say something, Abel?
I was gonna add on to the Boston Red Sox. I was gonna kind of talk about that, how the fundamental baseball that they play translates a little more to the kind of baseball that we've seen throughout history and throughout our childhoods growing up. That's what translates to the success you're having in the way that they play the game. I mean, everybody gets on base. They know they're excellent base runners, excellent defense, regardless of who's pitching. I mean, they're playing, and it's as a Yankees fan, it's hard to admit, but they're playing beautiful baseball.
Playing small ball.
Yeah.
Y'all are like touching on my talking points. I don't like that. I don't like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so really quickly, has the no-hitter lost its magic?
I wouldn't say it has lost. I think it's an amazing feat, and I think that I think if you are able to accomplish that, it shows how. I just think we have a lot of good pitchers right now.
Yeah. That's also something we have. It's what a gift every week to see a Glass now take the mound. Right, last night, Rodon in Chicago, Garrett Cole and Jacob deGrom in New York. Like, it's amazing. These pitchers are fantastic.
They're artists at work. I mean,
it's actually interesting because I was mentioning this week that Jacob deGrom has never thrown a no-hitter. I don't even think he's gotten close to doing so.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, a lot of the pitchers that are getting no-hitters are guys that aren't, on the Cy Young talk or in the race to the
Wade Miley, Carlos Rodon. Like, these are
And
players that nobody really. They're not Cy Young. They're not. People are not talking about like, oh, this is the next Cy Young. They're not talking about them like that. But they're throwing no hitters.
They're facing professional baseball players, like batters who can hit for average or who can hit home runs. So I don't think it's lost its magic whatsoever. It is an amazing feat at any given point in time during the game that no hitter can, break. So that's why it's so beautiful to see.
And it takes a team effort. I mean, the defense has to. Your guys know that they have to back you up. You don't want to be that guy to drop.
No, you don't.
No errors. No errors.
You will never live that down.
Yeah. Never. I really appreciated last week the support that the Yankees gave to Corey Kluber, because it was like clockwork. That was the first no-hitter I actually watched like as it was happening. I missed all the other ones, but that one, it was just like
and
clockwork.
what an amazing story for Kluber.
Comeback story.
He's had 2 Cy Young award seasons, amazing, and then he's been plagued with injuries.
Yeah.
But for him to come back and do it in New York with the Yankees, that is it's
big.
Bigger than baseball.
Bigger than baseball. Okay, guys. So I have 2 more questions. We have to wrap up the show soon, so you guys have to speed it up. Okay, I want to talk about Fernando Tatis Jr. right now. Not only is he having like one of the best seasons like ever, like it's so phenomenal to like watch him play. But he has also been branded as the face of the new age of baseball. So why do you guys think there's such a clash between like the old school guys and like those of us that are like, yeah, like whatever, like why not? Like why shouldn't baseball look like this now? Because if I'm being completely honest, I have my foot in both camps. There are certain instances where I'm like, oh, like you shouldn't have done that. But in instances like Tony La Russa, like I don't agree with what he did last week with Yermin Mercedes. I don't agree at all. Like that was. But like, what do you guys think? Like, why is there such a clash between the old and the new?
I think here in the United States, it's just a phenomenon, whether you're talking about sports or politics, that people will cling to nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And that's what's occurring in baseball, and that's what's been occurring for a long time. And every time a player who comes in, who's got pizzazz, who's a little, comes in with the swagger, who makes the game a little bit more like their own personality, someone comes along and says, you can't do that. Here, in America, we do things differently. This is, America's pastime, right? That's what baseball is often referred to as. So it's that. I have absolutely no problem with players, trash talking or being celebrating, flipping the bat. Do it. Talk your talk. Do it. Go ahead. I do have a problem with coaches and managers throwing their baseball players, their own guys, under the bus because they're trying to stick to some old rule. That does more damage than a guy flipping a bat or hitting a home run, in the wrong time of the game. So personally, I am all for Tatis being the face and ushering in this new generation and this new style of play.
Yeah, and there's always a phrase that we hear all the time: playing the game the right way. Playing the game the right way is about doing your job and what's expected of your job to the best of your ability, and representing your team in the right way, in a good way, which is being an honest person, and on and off the field, being someone to be an example, to lead by example. Guys like Tatis have been doing that, right? There's nothing to say they're not being an example.
He's playing clean.
He's
not using any, performance enhancing drugs.
And there's no outside drama that's being brought into the game itself. Why can he not be the face of baseball? And the guy's great at it. I mean, come on. I mean, he's exciting. Kids will look up to him. Kids want to be him. I mean, it just seems right to me.
It's funny because Bryce Harper, right, is this guy who is kind of when he came in, he was like the new face of baseball,
right?
And it was often the same exact thing. This guy, he's loud and he wants to be loud and he wants to talk, trash in the game, but they kind of got to him early and said, no, you can't do that. It's going to be interesting these next couple of seasons as more of this young generation comes into the game. But I definitely think that the shift is happening whether people like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see it. All right, gentlemen, before we sign off, I want to ask you guys one last question. When I sent you guys the draft for the show, I actually said it was going to be a surprise. It's not a bad surprise. It's okay. So because I think this is the year of the no-hitter, who do you guys think is going to throw the next no-hitter?
Good question.
A guy that I can see getting a no-hitter, I mean, it's going to sound a little biased, but I'm going to
walk away.
I think that was going to be exactly
I think Marcus Stroman will be a guy that can do it, and here's why. He's a pitcher that induces ground balls. He gets batters to hit ground balls and hit into, double plays a lot. And he's going to go into the 6th to 7th inning with very few pitches on his count for that night. And I think you need an arm like his to go into, 9 innings. So I think a guy like him, maybe not Marcus, maybe somebody else who has that style.
Someone like him.
Yeah, someone like him.
I was going to say Marcus Stroman as well. For the sake of saying someone else, I mean, I'm going to go with
Severino.
If Sevy comes back and hits, if Sevy comes back and throws a no-hitter, I'm going to be unbearable all over social media, all over the internet. I'm going to be unbearable. I'm going to get a shirt that says Severino threw a no-hitter after Tommy John. Unbearable.
I will mute all of the Yankee fans that I know, because that would be, horrendous.
Unbearable. Yankees Twitter will literally explode if Severino throws a no-hitter. Baseball Twitter in general, but Yankees.
Right. I'm gonna go with Severino. Why not?
Man, Luis, if you're listening to this, which I totally doubt it,
you have work to do.
You got work to do, and when you come back, you gotta be
standards.
Yeah, hitting the ground running. All right, Gabriel and Abel, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for the awesome conversation, the laughs. And to you guys, my viewers, thank you so much for watching Sizzling Hot with Sarah Michelle. My name is Sarah Michelle, and I will see you next time. Bye.